In this episode, we talk about the flu vaccine. We also talk about the TASMAC protest in Tamil Nadu. But first, we talk about the Vadodara accident case. Hi, I'm Ichha Sharma, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. An incident in the city of Vadodara has again sparked concerns over reckless driving as a speeding car last week, driven by a law student, plowed into 3 two-wheelers and pedestrians, killing 1 woman and leaving 7 others injured.
So at around 11:15 p.m. on March 13, a black Volkswagen Virtus crashed into 3 two-wheelers along a 250-meter stretch in the posh Kareli Bagh area of Vadodara.
This is the Indian Express's Aditi Raja, who reports on Vadodara for the newspaper.
It was just a matter of seconds when 8 people were hit. One woman around 35 years of age, identified as Hemali Patel, died on the spot, and her husband Purav continues to be critical in SSG hospital. He was the one riding their two-wheeler, which was the third one to be hit. Now, according to the FIR, which has been filed by the husband of another woman named Nisha Shah, who was also among the injured, along with her 2 children, the car was speeding from this junction called the Chandravali Society Circle towards a landmark area of Amrapali complex in Kareli Bagh.
Aditi says that according to the FIR, Nisha Jha had stepped out that evening with her 2 children, Rinsi and Jamie, for a ride.
Because, it was pre-Holi and they just wanted to go out for a quick spin on the two-wheeler. And they were returning from the Chandravali Society Circle towards their residential colony, which is located beside Amrapali complex, when this car came in top speed. According to the FIR filed by her husband, the car first hit another two-wheeler, which had 1 rider and 2 pillions. And then it hit Nisha Shah's two-wheeler and dragged her under the wheels for a few meters while her children were thrown off from the two-wheeler. Thereafter, it hit the third two-wheeler on which Hemali Patel and her husband were travelling. And Hemali Patel was killed on the spot. Now, Nisha Shah has also suffered grievous injuries along with her daughter and son, because she was dragged under the wheels and she has had massive muscle and blood loss on her legs, limbs, and also head injuries. According to the FIR, the car actually came to a halt because of a possible malfunction that happened when the hood of the car opened up after the collisions. Otherwise, the driver would have probably sped ahead.
Now, this incident has not only raised concerns about the reckless driving, but it has also sparked outrage regarding the driver's behavior right after the crash took place.
There are videos of the crash that were taken by bystanders which went viral. And as we can see in the videos, and also the remand application of the police mentions that the accused driver stepped out of the car when it came to a halt and screamed another round multiple number of times. He was also chanting names of gods until he was caught by the public around and thrashed before being handed over to the police.
Another round! Another round! Another round! Another round! Another round! क्या हुआ? Another round, Nikita! Om Namah Shivaya! Om Namah Shivaya! Om Namah Shivaya!
And Aditi, from what we know, there has been 1 arrest so far in the case, and that the police has also identified a suspect who was in the car at the time of the crash. So, could you tell us how are they connected to the case?
So the driver has been identified as Rakshit Chaurasia. He is a semester 8 student of LLB at MS University. He has been living in Vadodara for the last 4 years, is what the police has said. He originally hails from Varanasi, where his family runs a sanitary hardware business. Rakshit was in the company of Pranshu Chauhan, who was also the co-passenger in the car at the time of the accident. Police have said that the car is registered in the name of a company located in Vadodara district, where Pranshu Chauhan's father is an employee, and the car had been in his possession. So the car technically belongs to Pranshu Chauhan's father. Pranshu Chauhan is not an accused in the case yet, because the onus in a car accident lies with the driver. But the police have said that Pranshu Chauhan is a suspect in the case because there is an impression that the two were under the influence of an intoxicant at the time of the accident. Now, Pranshu Chauhan is a student of mass communication at Parul University in Vadodara, and he has been called in for investigation after he initially managed to escape from the spot of the accident. The police have arrested Chaurasia because he was the driver, and the police have collected blood samples of Pranshu Chauhan as well as a third friend who was with Rakshit Chaurasia just hours preceding the accident, where the sequence of event is now being ascertained to understand if the three of them together were involved in consuming any kind of intoxicant. So at the moment, Pranshu Chauhan is not an accused but a suspect. But Commissioner of Police, Vadodara City, Narasimha Kumar has said that if the blood reports come out positive, for consumption of any kind of intoxicant, then the two friends will accordingly be also booked under relevant sections.
Right, and after the video went viral, the accused was also seen interacting with the media later on, expressing remorse. So how did the local residents and the authorities react to that?
So following the accident, the video of the accident that went viral, it showed the driver, Rakshit Chaurasia, stepping out of the car and screaming another round, having barely any regret. He dropped names of a few other friends. He also chanted Om Namah Shivaya. All these acts following an accident that had actually injured 7 people and killed one on the spot at that time have led to a lot of public outrage. It has actually sparked so much public anger that when the police also took him for reconstruction of the crime on Saturday during the daytime, the residents of the neighborhood gathered wanting the police to hand over the accused to them, saying that none of them in the neighboring colonies even celebrated Holi out of the grief that they felt for losing their neighbors, and people around were extremely sad and angry. Now it prompted the police to also give out more details of the way the investigation is proceeding, and Commissioner of Police Narasimha Kumar on Saturday also explained how an exhaustive investigation is being carried out to understand the activities that the accused had indulged in before the crash, and a specific investigation into the behavior and utterances made by Chaurasia after the crash was also on by bringing in technical experts. And a controversy also broke out after Rakshit Chaurasia was seen giving media interviews right after his arrest on Friday.
मुझे अभी जस्ट पता चला है और मुझे कोई आइडिया कल तक भी नहीं था क्योंकि मुझे बताया गया था, मुझे पता नहीं था, लेकिन मुझे आज सर ने बताया कि एक लोग की डेथ हो गई है और कुछ लोग इंजर्ड हैं। और ऐसा दुख मनाने का ऐसा कुछ नहीं सर, मैं सबसे पहले उनकी फैमिली से मिलना चाहूंगा क्योंकि मेरी गलती है। अगर वो चाहेंगे कि जो वो चाहेंगे वही होना चाहिए।
Now the police commissioner has called it a lapse of the standard investigation protocol and has transferred 3 assistant sub-inspectors for, allowing him to interact with external media at the time of his arrest, which is generally not the procedure that they follow. In his media interactions, which was hours after he was actually arrested and hours after his first video where he seemed completely cold and screaming another round. Being a law student, he was very careful with the words that he used while speaking to the media, and he defended, his crash by saying that he didn't know how to drive an automatic car and, the airbags had just opened up and he couldn't see anything after that. He couldn't control the car and he was not speeding. So, and of course, he also said that he had not consumed any intoxicant. But these are statements made to the media while walking in the compound of a police station where he has been arrested. And when we asked CP Kumar about his media statements, he was very clear about one thing, that these media interactions were out of the place. They happened because of a lapse. And more importantly, these statements have no bearing on the investigation because the investigation will proceed as per the process of collecting evidence scientifically and through technical sources, oral sources. So the statement that an accused makes to the media is in no way going to impact the investigation, but he did express remorse while he was making those media statements.
Also, during your research, you spoke with multiple police authorities. So, how has the investigation proceeded so far? And also, what can be expected going forward?
So the Vadodara City Police was first granted remand for Rakshit Chaurasia for 1 day late on Friday. Thereafter, a 2-day extension of remand has been granted, and in that they have tried to reconstruct the scene of crime. They have also gathered as much physical, scientific, forensic evidence from the spot, including the tire marks, brake marks, the impact of the collision from the spot, as well as, using forensic analysis to give context to the spot where the accident has taken place, as well as, confiscating the vehicles involved in the crash, which includes the car as well as the 3 vehicles, in order to cohesively take in all kinds of evidence that can be extracted from all these physical pieces of evidence also. Apart from that, of a detailed physical examination of the accused, things that were in the possession of Chaurasia as well as Chauhan, and a team that has been set up only to investigate their activity during the entire day of Thursday before they actually went into this crash. His utterances, Chaurasia's utterances and behavior and the context in which he was, speaking those words are also being examined in order to ascertain where they had initially assembled, how did they interact, and what did they do during the day before the accident. Whether there was any consumption of intoxicant, whether Pranshu Chauhan was also driving the car that actually belonged to his father, and if there was any changeover during the journey. But at the time of the accident, the car was being driven by Chaurasia, and so the prime onus of the accident is on Chaurasia. But if any other incriminating evidence is found, they will take action accordingly. The police is also retrieving, the incident data recorder of this high-end German brand car, which will also allow the police to analyze what could have actually led to the crash, or, the way in which the car would have reacted at the time of the crash. They are also trying to ascertain the speed.
And lastly, Aditi, as you mentioned, there were 7 people who were injured in this accident, including 2 children. So could you tell us how is their current condition?
So Hemali Patel unfortunately was killed on the spot, and her family conducted her last rites on Friday itself. While her husband is continuing to battle for life and is critical, Nisha Shah and her 2 children are also admitted to a private hospital and will require long days of treatment because they have suffered grievous injuries on their head, limbs, back. The other 3 injured are also, they probably don't have life-threatening injuries, but they have multiple fractures, which would take several months to heal, and at least 2 of the other 3 injured have also undergone multiple surgeries for fractures. One of them is an MBBS student, and her family has said that, she has sustained grievous injuries on her leg, and they do not know how much time it would take for her to come back to normalcy.
A quick note. Shortly after this recording, we found out that Rakshit has been sent to judicial custody, and that a new CCTV footage has emerged which shows that his friend, who the car belonged to, was hesitant to hand over the wheels to him, but relented and shifted to the passenger seat just minutes before the crash. And next, we talk about the flu vaccine. Right now, some parts of the country, particularly Delhi, are experiencing a flu season, which is rather uncommon for this time of the year. Those infected are reporting the usual symptoms: runny nose, sore throat, and fever. But their symptoms seem to be lasting a little longer. Now, to prevent severe symptoms, experts have long advised people to take flu vaccine. But the question is, to what extent does the vaccine actually protect you? Is it really worth it? And when should you take it? To answer these questions, we are joined today by Dr. Suranjit Chatterjee, Senior Consultant of Internal Medicine at Indraprastha Apollo Hospitals. My colleague Shashank Bhargava spoke to him for this segment.
Dr. Chatterjee, for most people, flu means runny nose, headache, fatigue, fever, and usually these symptoms subside within a few days. But can you talk about how serious can a flu get?
See, what you said is that it is mainly, obviously, and most commonly a viral disease which causes a runny nose, sneezing, sore throat, cough, and fever, body aches, lethargy, tiredness. This is what is a normal scenario. But yes, in few particular age groups like extremes of age, less than 5 years of age or more than 65, or who suffer from comorbidities like diabetes or asthma, heart disease, or who are post-transplant, their course can be sometimes complicated and they might need hospitalizations. And if they have a secondary infection over and above that, we can even lose them and there can be a mortality also happening. But although that is very uncommon, mostly what you said is it is basically a spectrum of all these symptoms, what you said, and most of the times it would get relieved in about 5 to 7 days' time.
And usually the way we treat the flu is a lot of rest and taking medications for symptoms like fever and runny nose. But over the years, there has been this growing awareness about the flu vaccine. Do you advise that people take it?
See, flu vaccines is something which we are recommending much more frequently after COVID, because what we realize is that although COVID also belonged to a similar group of viruses, sometimes the fatality and all that was quite high. So the thought process amongst doctors and professionals also has changed, especially in people who are less than 5 or elderly people or people with comorbidities, as we say, diabetes, heart disease, renal transplant or post-liver transplant, because we see nowadays quite a few post-transplant people and people with heart disease and all that. We are definitely recommending a flu shot for them. Because if it happens in them, they can be serious. But once you have taken a vaccine, it's not that you may not suffer. You may still have influenza, but the seriousness of the disease and or the hospitalizations do definitely reduce after a vaccination. So definitely there is no doubt that our advice towards immunization for flu has definitely increased in the last couple of years.
Okay, so what you're saying is that even if someone takes the flu shot, it's not that they won't contract the disease, it's not like they won't get the symptoms, but their chances of hospitalization will be significantly reduced.
And even the seriousness of the infection and basically all this severity of the symptoms might be much lower than people who have not been immunized.
And for those who may not have ever taken the flu vaccine, tell us, is it a single dose?
Yeah, it is a single dose every year. What is recommended is, because almost the immunity actually lasts for 6 to 8 months, but it is normally a vaccine which has been recommended once a year. And it was earlier always at a particular time because the strains would be different. The manufacturing companies would see that the strains which are prevalent at that time are incorporated in the vaccine. So they're very particular that by October you should take the vaccine. But nowadays we recommend that, okay, any time of the year, take it. Preferably, obviously, before October. That's the preferred time. There's no doubt about that. But if you haven't taken till October or November, just see to it that everybody takes the flu vaccine, because even if it is taken a bit late, it does take for the vaccine about 2 weeks for the immunity to be produced. But after the immunity is produced, as I said, the beneficial effects further, they really are a lot. And it's just an injection which can cause a bit of pain, a bit of fever, a bit of soreness over there, and without any major side effects. So I would definitely recommend the flu shot in most of the people.
And you mentioned how every year there are different strains of the flu. So does the vaccine protect us from all of them?
It's mainly the main 3 strains they take up. Although, see, it is not that there are only 3. There can be sometimes a bit of mutation and can be a bit of a different strain also. But as I said, that if you are vaccinated, even if that strain is not really particularly covered, the intensity, severity of the disease and the complications are much less in people who are vaccinated for flu.
And can pregnant women also take the vaccine?
Yeah, it's a safe vaccine which can be taken during pregnancy. And pregnancy is one of the risk factors where if you have flu, then obviously you're suffering from the disease. There could be complications. So even in pregnant women, we do advise taking the flu shot.
And are there any kind of people you advise not to take the flu shot?
See, except for people who have had a reaction to the vaccine, they are the main people who should not be having it. Otherwise, there are very few conditions which have to be really interrogated to say that, okay, these are the people who should not be having it, but most of the people should have it, preferably under guidance of a doctor or something like that. But it is a reasonably safe vaccine.
Also, let's say if someone has already got the flu this season, should they wait and get the vaccine next year maybe?
See, the thing is that it is one strain of flu which has caused you the influenza. The other 2 strains still remain. So even after once you are recovered and all that, it's not a bad idea to get yourself vaccinated for flu vaccine. Even if you have had influenza during this season, after a couple of weeks, maybe have yourself vaccinated so that you're protected against the other strains.
And these vaccines cost anywhere between 1,500 to 2,000 rupees. And I was wondering, is cost the reason why there isn't a culture of taking the flu vaccine in India as opposed to the West?
I think it's not the cost factor. It was mainly the recommendation which was not coming through from people. But if it gets propagated, obviously, in people who are not very well-to-do and all that, maybe there we have to be slightly more strict in prescribing it to people who are the vulnerable population and all that. But even if it is 1,500, obviously a few people would find it to be expensive, but maybe the government can maybe subsidize it in its hospitals, in the government hospitals and all that, where the prevention program or a preventive program can continue. So I would, at the end of the day, think that at least the vulnerable population should be vaccinated, with decisions being taken to lower the cost of this.
And in the end, we talk about the TASMAC protest in Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu BJP President K. Annamalai and several senior party leaders were detained by police ahead of a planned protest against the alleged financial irregularities in TASMAC, a state-run liquor retailer. The arrests were made on Monday morning, just as Annamalai was preparing to leave his residence in Akkarai for the protest venue near the TASMAC headquarters in Chennai. Among those detained also include the former Telangana Governor Tamilisai Soundararajan, Mahila Morcha Chief Vanathi Srinivasan, and BJP MLA Saraswati, among others. The Indian Express's Arun Janardhanan reports that the protest was called following an ED investigation which uncovered an alleged 1,000 crore rupees financial fraud within TASMAC. The ED's probe suggested manipulation in tender processes where transport contracts worth 100 crore rupees were allegedly awarded to ineligible bidders. The investigation also pointed to leading liquor manufacturers, including SNJ, Carl's, Accord, Sefel, and Shiva Distillery, accusing them of funneling unaccounted cash through bottling companies to secure inflated supply orders. Janardhanan also highlights that according to reports, BJP members had gathered in different parts of Chennai to march toward TASMAC headquarters, but was stopped by a large police deployment. Soundararajan was intercepted at her residence in Saligramam, while others were detained as they moved towards the protest site. Annamalai, following his arrest, criticized the government, alleging that the detentions were an attempt to silence democratic protests. He remarked, quote, "Is it because we announced the protest in advance that you were able to act in such a manner? What can you do if we launch a protest suddenly without prior notice?" Unquote. According to Janardhan's report, the ED's investigation has focused on several aspects of TASMAC operations, including bribery in staff transfers and claims that shops routinely overcharge customers by 10 to 30 rupees per bottle. The inquiry has also examined the use of inflated expenses and false invoices, which allegedly facilitated the flow of illicit cash within the system. As the political situation unfolds, the Tamil Nadu BJP has stated that it will continue raising the issue of TASMAC's financial operations and the state government's handling of liquor sales. Meanwhile, the ruling party has dismissed the allegations, calling them politically motivated. You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by Shashank Bhargava and me, Ichha Sharma. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Audio and write to us at podcast@indianexpress.com.